Well, let's bring in the president of the Sentinel Action Fund, Jessica Anderson. Welcome back, Jessica, and former Biden campaign surrogate, Kevin Walling. Kevin, thank you for your time. Good to see you as well. Here are the numbers, and I'll allow the two of you to give us a solution, okay? D.C. stats, motor vehicle theft up 106% year over year. Robbery 68, homicide 38, total violent crime at 39%. Jessica, you first. Give us a solution.
Bill, thanks for bringing this to everyone's attention. The crime in Washington, D.C. is astronomical. You look at these numbers just this year, over 750 carjackings this year in Washington, D.C. Of that, only 136 arrests. I mean, that is negligence on the part of the D.C. City Council, the D.C. AG, and when you look at the percentages even more, you actually find out over half of these arrests are juveniles. And who's in charge of the juvenile justice system here in Washington? It's the DCAG's office. So while they're going on these random attacks against conservative groups, against parents, and stacked with left-wing activists in that office, they're allowing crime to rage rampant and destroy our nation's capital in a way that is unsurmountable for families to even live here. I mean, it's truly appalling. We left D.C. We can't live here.
Yep. Kevin, before I get to the mayor, because she's kind of gone back and forth on this over the past couple of years, what's your solution?
Well, listen, Jessica and I are united. It is appalling. And I think oftentimes we get stuck in the statistics and focus on that. But, you know, these are real lives. And, you know, you're shining a light, of course, on Henry Cuellar. You know, just last February, Angie Craig, another congresswoman from Minnesota, was brutally assaulted in her building. And I think, you know, I've got some faith in our new police chief here in D.C. She's a 25-year veteran, Pamela Smith. She comes from the Park Police. She's already identified a lot of different, hopefully, solutions, including a youth curfew. Thirds of those carjackings when we arrest someone are youth under 18. So clearly there's a huge issue when it comes to teenagers. Henry Cuellar talked about the fact that he thinks that, you know, the people that carjacked him were under the age of 18, were young. So this is really a serious situation, and we need to really shine a light on the spike in youth crime, and hopefully this new police chief will do that. But it's also a policing issue. You know, I come from the Joe Biden camp. I'm against defunding the police. I was so happy to see the president say that. Years. And that's going to take some time to recruit and train these folks. So we've got a crisis right now, and we've got to look to the future, too.
But you have a mayor, if I could, Kevin, you've got a mayor right now at one time allowed, you know, the BLM sign on that main street that runs to the White House. At one time, defund the police was on there as well. I understand since that time it's been removed. The former chief of police said we need to keep violent people in jail. And that's a direct shot at the DA. And we hear that about Philly, and we hear that about New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. It's the same thing. San Francisco, Portland. All right, here is the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, on her plea just on the 27th of September, so about a week ago.
We need more officers. We don't have the officers that we need, and sadly, we've lost 300 to 400 officers in the last 4 years. We haven't had officers in our schools, and we have policies that make it difficult to recruit new officers. So, yes, we need officers.
Has she, Jessica, talked like that before?
This is a complete sea change for the left, but it's coming on the backs of actually people being killed, their cars being jacked, and homes not being safe. And I want to go back to the earlier point because it's so important here, Bill. The Democratic Party went from soft on crime to defund the police to ignore crime. And that sort of rhetoric, it has real life implications. And unfortunately, you even have the bipartisan failure of the First Step Act that's let out over 30,000 criminals since 2020 when it was passed and signed. So these conversations, they have a real life impact. I think this is a little bit too late. What we actually need to see is prosecutors prosecuting the law, a return to safety, cops on our street, and actually everyone on the right and the left fully supporting law enforcement in a way to keep our communities safe and secure.
Well, if it gets worse, you might get your wish. I got some breaking news, Kevin, but give me one last comment on Jessica's point.
Listen, we're united. I'm a Democrat speaking out. We need to fund the police, as Joe Biden has said. We need more officers. He's called for the hiring of 100,000 more officers on the beat. We are united, Democrats and Republicans, because it's also not just a city issue, it's a suburban issue, and it's a rural issue, because we're seeing homicides up across the board and violent crime across the board.
That's a fact. Kevin, thanks for coming on. Jessica as well. We'll talk to you both very soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Martha.